Oh yeah, what is a hardcore gamer? During one of our recent videos, I made the claim that the coming Sega Genesis Mini was being marketed more towards hardcore gamers. I made this comment because the Mini contains quite a few games that are not well known or are popular with collectors. However, there were some comments challenging me on this claim, saying essentially that I was abusing the term. That's not hardcore, bro. How can the Genesis Mini be hardcore if it has Mickey Mouse games, bro, or Earthworm Jim? You're just a corporate shill, bro. This led me to the realization that there isn't really a universally agreed upon definition for hardcore gamer or hardcore game, even though these words are frequently thrown around online. I think it's possible to derive a best definition of hardcore gamer, and I'm going to elucidate that and defend it. Here we go! To begin, let's talk about what people are saying about hardcore gamers.
What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening.
I talked to a few people and read a few different sources, and I found that the use of the term hardcore can be divided into a few distinct categories. For starters, I found that there are two fundamentally different ways the term hardcore is used that at first appear to be completely at odds. First, there's hardcore gamer, which describes a class of people, and then there are hardcore games, which describes a class of video game. The earliest uses of the term that I can find seem to center on references to a kind of person, the so-called hardcore gamer. Dang dude, Billy here is like so hardcore, man. Why is that, Chad? Dude, have you seen this guy playing Ninja Gaiden, brah? His thumbs move like the wings of a hummingbird, man. He broke 2 of my controllers last week, bro. Look at him go, man. Whoa! More recent discussions about the term hardcore, however, are focused on a type of video game, the so-called hardcore game.
Yeet! Split doggy dog. Dark Souls is hardcore, man.
What do you mean, Billy?
Yeet! Have you played that game, fam? It's gonna high-key kill all y'all every 2 sec, fam. Yeet! Dead. 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 And dead.
This raises the following question. Are gamers made hardcore because they play hardcore video games? Or are video games made hardcore because they are played by hardcore gamers? Or are hardcore video games and hardcore gamers two completely separate things altogether? If a hardcore gamer just so happens to play a regular game, that doesn't necessarily render the game hardcore. And conversely, if a regular gamer plays a hardcore game, that doesn't necessarily make them a hardcore gamer, does it? I think these are the central questions that get at the very essence of what we really mean when we say hardcore gamer or hardcore video game. But beyond this most fundamental distinction between games and gamer, I've found the term hardcore being used in the following ways. Hardcore as a function of either skill or difficulty. For example, whoa, check Billy out, dude. He beat Ninja Gaiden without even losing a single life, man. Billy is hardcore.
Yeah, fam. Ninja Gaiden is hardcore, man. I mean, it's a super old NES game that only uses like 2 buttons and a D-pad, and has gameplay mechanics so primitive a toddler could pick it up. But you try winning with these cheap rapid respawning enemies, terrible level layouts, blurry graphics, bullcrap jumps, and stiff controls, man. Ninja Gaiden is the hardest of hardcore games, man.
Hardcore as a function of content, that is, hardcore gamers seek hardcore content, or hardcore is a game with hardcore content.
Dude, Chad is like hardcore, man. He only plays games like Mortal Kombat 11 and Night Trap. Check it out. Sick, bro. That guy pulled out that other guy's spleen through his nose. Now that's hardcore, dog.
Hardcore as a function of complexity. That is, hardcore gamers play games with steeper learning curves, or hardcore games are games that are harder to learn.
Chad is a hardcore gamer, dude. He memorized all the special inputs and combos for every character in Street Fighter 2. This dude gets like a D in algebra, but you better believe he knows how to perfectly execute 2 hurricane kicks in a row, dog. Show it, Brad. A+, bro.
Hardcore as in relating to competition. That is, hardcore gamers play games competitively, or hardcore games are games that are frequently played in competitions. Billy is a hardcore gamer, man, because he competes on Fortnite.
I'm good at playing Fortnite, dog.
Fortnite is a hardcore game because Fortnite is a game that people play competitively.
This game is hardcore, dog.
Finally, hardcore as a function of time, energy, or money invested into gaming. Therefore, a hardcore gamer is someone who spends more time, energy, and money playing video games than regular gamers. And hardcore games are just games that require more time, energy, and money to be played. Billy is a hardcore gamer because he prioritizes gaming above personal relationships and hygiene. Billy is a high-level character on World of Warcraft.
Hardcore!
That high-end first-person shooter on the PC requires a high-end CPU, GPU, extra RAM, and an expensive sound card worth thousands of dollars. That first-person shooter is hardcore. I spent my last penny on this hardcore game, bro. Doesn't that make me hardcore too? I've been wrestling with this for a while, and I've come to the conclusion that all of these seemingly divergent uses of hardcore, as well as the distinction between hardcore gamer and hardcore game, are actually all cogently collapsible into this last and final definition, number 5. I think the true definition of hardcore, as it pertains to gaming, is just a person who spends more time, energy, and money on gaming than regular people, and that consequently, a hardcore game is really nothing more than a game that is played exclusively by hardcore gamers as opposed to the general public. But let's test this. Let's think about each of these definitions one at a time and see if they can compete with definition number 5 for validity. Is hardcore a function of the skill of the player or the difficulty of the game alone? No, not necessarily. If this were actually true, then virtually every single NES game would have been considered hardcore back in the day, just because by contemporary standards they were apparently too hard to even play. Further, every single kid in the mid to late 80s, including my wife and myself, would have been a hardcore gamer, because all of us were able to not only play these games, but we were actually able to beat them. The term hardcore given these conditions would have had virtually no meaning. So then is hardcore a function of content, like our Mortal Kombat 11 example above? No way. Or else, well, Mortal Kombat would be hardcore. But then how could a game series that even US senators know about really be hardcore? In fact, since the very beginning, most video games, practically all video games, have been fairly gruesome in their content.
Look! Pac-Man is eating those poor bastards! Alive! Now look at Mario, smashing these poor little anthropomorphic mushrooms into smithereens! Kill everything that moves, Mario! Kill everything! Kill all the things!
Violence or edge just doesn't cut it. If anything, games missing this element ought to be considered more hardcore, because by comparison, more true hardcore gamers seem to prefer games like Animal Crossing and SimCity than the general public. The general public plays endless violent first-person shooters and sports titles. It's really not the content. So then is hardcore a function of complexity? Well, no. Again, Street Fighter 2 is a complex game to master, but it's also a game that everyone over the age of 25 who also breathes air has probably played on multiple occasions. What's hardcore about a game that was so widespread and popular that they turned it into a movie? Is hardcore then about competition? Not necessarily. Most gamers these days participate in online competition of some variety. My 10-year-old daughter regularly ranks among the top 20% of Tetris 99 players. Fortnite is competitive, so is Splatoon 2. A game being competitive, or a gamer participating in competition, isn't enough to be hardcore in an era where competition is the norm. If everyone is hardcore, then no one is hardcore, and therefore the term would have no meaning at all. Looking at all these different concepts, the only one that still stands up to scrutiny is definition number 5. Hardcore gamers are simply all gamers who spend more time, energy, or money than what is typical. They are the ones playing the harder games. They are the ones learning the complex mechanics. They are the ones undisturbed by gratuitous violence. They're the ones competing online. But not exclusively, and for no other reason than the fact that they simply play more often and are more dedicated to their hobby. In fact, hardcore gamers are the ones who invest so much of themselves into the hobby that while the rest of us are struggling to finish the latest Zelda game over the course of something like a year, they've already moved on to purchase or play all of this weird stuff that most of us never even bothered to think about. And the hardcore games? They're the games that are the exclusive object of hardcore gamers, meaning they're the games left to only the elite and not generally played by the rest of us. Who are these people though? And how can we tell them apart from other people? Is there an absolute measure of time, money, and energy required to qualify someone as hardcore? No, not at all. I think the term is essentially relative. The hardcore gamer is only hardcore insofar as he or she is hardcore in relation to the average gamer, and the magnitude of that hardcoreness is contingent upon their relation to other hardcore gamers. Compared to many, I am by no means a hardcore gamer. I'm not competitive, I have a modest collection of popular Switch games, and as a husband and father, I have fairly little free time to actually play many video games. But I also take the time to make YouTube videos about retro gaming. So compared then to the general public, including people who play Candy Crush, I am definitely a hardcore gamer. But perhaps compared to you, or even my own children, I'm as mainstream and soft as it gets. So, going back to my claim that the Genesis Mini is for hardcore populations of gamers, I stand by that claim. Indeed, retro gaming itself is so niche that it's practically hardcore by definition. But perhaps the Genesis Mini is going to have a very broad appeal. Even then, looking at the library that Sega and M2 have included, there are quite a few games that really only excite hardcore players. The rare Tetris game, the brand new port of Darius, the expensive Mega Man collection, the obscure Alicia Dragoon, the niche and previously unreleased Monster World 4. Hardcore all the way. If we had gotten Aladdin or perhaps a bunch of EA Sports games or Mortal Kombat, then surely I'd think the Mini was a device for mainstream gamers of yesteryear. But the mainstream gamers of yesterday aren't the people interested in buying a Mini. It's been wisely marketed towards hardcore gamers and collectors. Chances are that if you're watching this video and you've gotten to this point, then you're a hardcore gamer. Thank you for getting to the end of this with me. So why not consider becoming a hardcore supporter of this channel by liking this video and subscribing? It would be very helpful to us in the future. So, until next time, stay hardcore! How about this? Ready?